Well, we're continuing our 5-part series today with Red, so that means Rain and Dragon Holt. And yep, they got some goodies. So starting off with the new fire cards, we're going to go over a bunch of 1-cost spells. And I wanted to do it in this way because we actually have a card in the game called Ashbourne Shaman that allows you to search for a red spell that costs 1 anytime your opponent uses a spell or activated ability. So before this set, this card's options were rather limited, but now that he has 5 new ones, I think his playability goes up. So starting us off, we have Ritual of Ashes, which is a card that we've already discussed in the collaboration video with all of the other teams, but I did want to bring it back up again because during that collaboration video, I thought you got both of these effects, but you have to choose one. The big thing that we were talking about was, chaining these with multiple Ritual of Ashes. And you can still do that, but at least I was under the impression that you got both of those effects. So you'll have to have all 3 Ritual of Ashes in your hand to make your fire spells cost 2 less and then get to draw each time you play a fire spell. So I don't think this card's that good anymore. Being able to chain it is still a possibility. I just don't know of what competitive fire deck would have a bunch of red spells. Right now, it's very monster heavy, very unit heavy. And Ritual of Ashes, I really just don't see it fitting in anywhere. But maybe it'll get better in the future. We do already have some fire spells that cost 0, like Whelp Spark. So you could play this and then, deal 500 and draw a card. But I don't know. I don't know of anything super great with this card right now. So moving on, we have Return from Ashes, which is another 1-cost fire spell that says destroy target fire unit you control, and if you do, put into play a fire unit from your discard zone with cost less than the destroyed unit. So I actually really like this card. I think it's probably the best 1-cost spell that we got in this set. It has a lot of interaction with all of the fire decks right now. Any kind of Blazewalker deck, I think it's good in. Any kind of Dragon deck, it's really good in. And then the new Rowenta archetype that we got in this set is also very good in it. So, obviously, using this on a fire unit that has a ruined ability is very nice. And we have a couple good ones. We have Rowenta Immortal Princess, which allows you to get the Phoenix. We also have Voidfire Dragon, which allows you to get back an expelled card, so very good in the Blazewalker archetype. And then we also have Row Wyvern Rider, which is a quickness dragon that also creates a token whenever it's ruined, so you don't really minus whenever you use this. And you can get back something beneficial like a Juvenile Dragon or a Scarlet Egg to search for a very good dragon that we get in this set. So a lot of uses and a lot of utility out of this card. I think this is one that's going to make an immediate impact. And I think there's probably a lot of really cool combos with this card. Next up is Imbued by Ashes, which is a 1-cost instacast spell. And it says fire units you control get plus 500 this turn. If you control 3 or more fire units, draw a card. So I really like this spell as well. The fact that it has instacast gives it some utility already. And then being able to replace itself if you have 3 or more fire units on the field is very nice. I think this plays really nicely into dragons for sure. You're usually swarming the field with things like Juvenile Dragon, Deranged Dragon, and they only have 1,000 power, so being able to give them plus 500 to break any tower is very nice. And then also just replacing itself. So you don't lose any momentum, and you're giving your weenies all an extra push. So I like this card for sure. So our 4th 1-cost spell is Endowment of the Dragon God. It says you can only play 1 Endowment of the Dragon God each turn. As an additional cost to play this card, reveal any number of different dragon units from your hand. The next dragon unit you play this turn costs X less to play, where X equals the number of dragon units you revealed. So if you revealed 4 dragons, the next 4-drop dragon you play will be free. If you revealed 3 and down, blah, blah, blah. You get it. Cards like this, in any card game, I've always had a hard time gauging. They can obviously be very good in certain situations. Cheating out, a Dragon Holt the Bold or a Behemoth or even a Bahamut seems really, really nice. But at the same time, you are revealing your entire hand to your opponent. At times, you also need a certain amount of dragon units in your hand on top of the dragon that you want to cheat out. So I just don't know. I honestly don't know about this card. It seems really nice in theory. I just don't know how it would play in testing. I know that's a terrible insight for this card, but I honestly can't give my honest opinion on it just because I have zero track record with stuff like this. So this is one that I'm really lost on how it's going to play. So our last 1-cost spell that we're looking at is Assault of Ashes. It's a insta-cast spell that says choose one, but if you control 3 or more fire units, you may choose both. And the effects are deal 500 to target unit or destroy target damaged unit. Now a ruling has already been confirmed by the ARG team saying that if you get to choose both, you can't target the same unit for both of these if the unit doesn't already have damage on it. So if they have one unit on the field and it doesn't have any damage on it, and you have 3 or more fire units, you cannot choose it as the target for both. Because whenever this card resolves, you need to declare your targets first, and since that unit did not have any damage on it, you can't destroy it because it wasn't damaged. So you'd have to deal 500 to it. But if they had 2 units on the field and one of them, had damage on it already, you could destroy that and then deal 500 to the one that doesn't have any damage on it. But with that being said, I still think this card is pretty good. It does have some interaction with Corona, where you can discard a fire unit and deal 500, and then pay 1 and destroy that unit, which is pretty high value in a 1-cost spell. And on top of that, red does have a free 500 damage spell called Whelp Spark. So you can deal 500 for no cost and then pay the 1 and destroy that unit. So I think Assault of Ashes definitely has some merits and could find its way into some decks for sure. So now we're going to move on to the Rowenta archetype cards. We've had some Rowenta cards in the game already, from Betrayal mostly. And now we got a bunch of other Rowenta cards that we can actually build a deck focused around Rowenta on. The first one that we're looking at today is Rowenta the Vengeful Phoenix, which is actually the sneak peek promo as well, in full art form, which looks amazing. But it's a 5-cost unit with 3,000 power, and it says discard this card from your hand, destroy target non-token unit you control, and if you do, deal 1,500 to target unit your opponent controls. At the start of your draw phase, if this card is in your discard zone because of its own ability, you may expel this card. If you do, put into play a Rowenta unit from your hand or discard zone. So a lot of text there, but very interesting card. I think it is good. It's obviously very good for the archetype. Being able to destroy your own Rowenta, the Immortal Princess, to bring out the Phoenix is nice, while also dealing 1,500 to something. Even if you don't have an Immortal Princess, to use this somewhat as a hand trap, Yu-Gi-Oh term, I guess, to deal 1,500 and take care of something, and then cheat out a Rowenta unit from your hand for free at the beginning of your draw phase is very cool, especially if you have Phoenix in your hand. But yeah, the Rowenta archetype is definitely something that I'm interested to build a deck around. I'm very excited about this set in general, but this archetype is one that I think is sneakily very good, and I think a couple people are sleeping on it. But the Phoenix is a nice start. So moving on, we have Hand of Rowenta, 2-cost unit with 1,500 power that reads, discard this card from your hand, destroy target unit you control, and if you do, search your deck for a Rowenta unit and add it to your hand. At the start of your draw phase, if this card is in your discard zone because of its own ability, you may put this card into play. Very nice card. Being able to add any of the Rowenta units just for destroying a monster you control is very nice. You can also destroy tokens, which the Vengeful Phoenix didn't allow you to do, but if you have like a Phantasmal Guards token or a Buckeye token, because you're using Buckeye as your spirit, it's a nice way to start. And then it also comes back onto the field. So you're searching, and then it also replaces itself. That is a little slow because it can't attack that turn, obviously. But the advantage you're getting by searching any of the Rowenta units is very, very good. So a great addition to the Rowena archetype. I would think this card is played in 3s. So our last Rowena unit is Defender of Rowena. It's 2 cost and has 1500 power. It also has the Guardian ability, and it reads, discard this card from your hand, destroy target unit you control, and if you do, this turn Rowena units cost you 2 less to play. Also at the start of the draw phase, if it's in your discard zone because of its own ability, you can put it into play. This is definitely the weakest Rowena unit in my opinion. The Guardian ability is kind of nice. Being able to cheat it out on turn 1 is cool to stop any kind of aggro strategy. The effect to reduce the cost I don't think is that great. It's obviously nice for the Phoenix if you did draw it, unfortunately. And also the Immortal Princess, being able to get her on the field for 2 cost is kind of neat too. But other than that, I think you run it just because of the destruction ability. The Guardian is a nice addition, but you're mainly using it for the fact that it can destroy things. So we also did get some new dragons, and starting us off is Glowshard Dragon, which is 2 cost unit, 1500 power. It says other dragon units you control cannot be targeted by your opponent's spells or abilities. Also, you can pay 2 and expel this card from your discard zone. Target dragon unit cannot be targeted by your opponent's spells or abilities this turn. This card's fantastic. This card alone kind of makes dragons playable, even if they didn't get anything else in this set. It creates a soft lock if you have 2 on the field, so that's also cool. And then even if it's in your discard zone, you can play it at instant speed to allow one of your dragon units to not be targeted by spells or abilities. So this card just screams value. It's an instant add at 3. It can be searched out by Scarlet Egg, which is really nice. Obviously a great target for Dragon Holt as well. I can only say good things about this card. Also 2 cost, 1500 power, destroys any kind of tower. It's just great all around for sure. So the next dragon-centric card we're looking at is a card that was actually spoiled by Kalen Nelson. He did a little stream playtesting this card on Untap, so that was very nice of him. But it is a 4-cost spell, and it says deal 1500 to all units your opponent controls. And if you control 4 or more dragon units, you may deal 1500 to a target face-up tower. Very powerful card here for sure. Being able to deal 1500 is kind of like a mini finishing ray, but only to your opponent's units. The meta that we had before this set came out, I was actually running Phoenix Flame Strike to deal the 1000 to all of my opponent's stuff on the board because Repro Bloom was pretty active. So this is a very nice replacement for that card in my opinion, even if you're not running dragon units, just to deal the 1500. But then you get that additional effect as well if you have 4 or more dragons on the field to destroy a face-up tower. So this can be a very devastating spell for sure. And then our last dragon-centric card is the Big Daddy himself, Dragon Holt, Fury Unleashed, 5-cost unit with 5000 power. It is an Omega unit, and it has the Destroyer ability, and says whenever this card attacks, you may put any number of units under this card into the discard zone, and if you do, for each card you put into your discard zone this way, destroy target unit, augment, or shard. So Dragon Holt is an Omega unit that allows you to put him on top of 1 or more dragon units. So if you have a field of 5 dragons, you can play Dragon Holt, suck up all 5 of those dragons, attack, destroy 2 towers, and then also destroy 5 shards that your opponent controls. So if this card hits the field and its attack goes through, the game's probably over. And the fact that Omega units don't use the Q, where you can just slap this on the board and your opponent can't respond to it being played, is crazy for one thing. The second thing is if you have a Glowshard Dragon on the field, Dragon Holt can't be targeted by spells or abilities. So your outs to him attacking are stuff like Chronostasis, Shards of Winter, things like that. But yeah, so this card's obviously really good. 5 cost isn't that bad either. especially for dragons, where dragons are poking at you pretty early. They're picking at some of the lower towers like wind and fire, so this one's hitting, light and the water tower or whatever. But when your opponent doesn't have any shards left, it doesn't really matter what they draw with their 2 cards because they have no shards left. But anyway, yeah, this card's amazing. Not much to say about it other than don't let it attack. So now we're just going to round out the video with some of the randomly sprinkled in fire cards. The first one is Ashbourne Sprite, 1 cost unit, 1000 power, so we get a new Ashbourne card. And it says whenever your opponent plays a spell or uses an activated ability, like all the Ashbournes, you can then reveal this card from your hand, and if you do, you put it from your hand into play. So you get to play it for free. I don't know how I feel about this card. Obviously, if you have like 3 in your hand, it's kind of cool because then you can just start swinging at towers. Maybe pair it with Ursa Tovis, the new spirit, and have a bunch of free cost weenies on the field that surprise your opponent. But I don't know. This card's not that great. It does have funny art, though. So next we have Cosmic Fire Magic. It's a 2 cost spell with Instacast that reads, this card costs 1 less to play for each face-up fire tower. And it says, this turn ruined abilities of units do not trigger. So a very interesting spell here. You're going to see ruined abilities, I think, get a lot more powerful than they have been from set 1 and set 2. We do have some good ruined ability monsters already. Rowenta, we've been talking about her a lot for sure. The airships for green we talked about yesterday. And then Dark also got some pretty good ruined abilities that we'll talk about here in the next upcoming days. So this card could see some play for sure. I think the one thing that this has going for it over the green spell, which we saw, the green spell only stops the next arrive trigger, where this one shuts down all ruined abilities for the turn. So it's kind of a stop to maybe some possible strategies in the future. So that's why I like it. So we're going to finish out the video with 2 Omega units. The first one's Voidfire Elemental. It's a 4 cost unit with 3500 power, and it has an arrive ability that says destroy any number of target units your opponent controls whose combined power is 3000 or less. So very powerful effect for sure. If your opponent has any guardians in the way, you can bring this down, blow them up, and then attack. 4 cost is kind of high, but it's a pseudo board wipe in a sense, especially on some of these aggro weenie decks. So I like this card. I think it's one of the better super rare Omega units. And last but not least, we have Arc the Soaring Blazewalker. It's a 3 cost unit with 2500 power. It is an Omega unit. And it reads, this card costs 2 less to play when playing it on top of a Blazewalker unit. So you can place it on any fire unit, but if you play it on top of a Blazewalker unit, it reduces its cost by 2, so you can play it for 1. And it says, put a unit under this card into the discard zone, add up to 2 target fire units from your expelled zone to your hand. So this card's fantastic. I actually think this is the best Omega unit for red. As crazy as that sounds because of how good Dragonhold is, but I think Arc is just that good. Being able to recycle any of your banished Blazewalkers is great automatically. If you want to recycle your regular arcs and have your rain be able to deal 3000 damage on command and then get them right back with this card, that's amazing in its own. On top of that, this makes the rain unit so much better. Usually in the past, whenever you would hit a Blazewalker unit, you wouldn't really want to bring it out onto the field. But now being able to do that with rain, hit a Blazewalker unit, and then play this for 1 is pretty nuts. And then getting the rain right back to do it again the next turn. We also got plenty of new powerful fire cards, but also dragons in this set to abuse rain even more. And to just keep recycling with this card is nuts. 3 cost is very low, I think, for that effect. And then also being able to play it for 1 is just insanity. But yeah, I think this is the best Omega unit that Fire has. But that's the last of our cards for Fire, guys. Let me know what you think. Like, comment, subscribe. Zeppelin out.